two altcoins I would suggest every single cryptocurrency investor take a closer look at and specifically buy before the next bull run are the projects I'm going to mention in this video. Now, I want to say first and foremost, these aren't run-of-the-mill projects. These are projects I've spent extensive amounts of time researching and also ones I truly do believe in myself. This isn't me shilling my bag to by any stretch of the imagination. I gain nothing from you buying these projects because after all, I'm not going to get a million views on this video. I'm just here saying to you with supportive evidence in just a second, these projects fundamentally and technically speaking are far superior than any of their counterparts, and why you need to specifically be very well aware of their presence. As a matter of fact, do your own research. Now, of course, none of this is financial advice. And with that being said, guys, let's take a closer look at what I am talking about today. So these two projects are, again, ones that every single crypto investor needs to take a closer look at. Let me just reduce the size of my pen real quick. God. So it's almost like telling everyone, in my opinion, to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum back in 2018. What do I mean by that? Well, these two projects, they weirdly work together in such a way, it is almost akin, not technology-wise, to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm going to go ahead and show you not the reason why that is the case, but when I present the facts, you'll begin to realize that they kind of do work in that way. It's kind of cool. And I kind of want to take this chance to, as I mentioned down here, right? I want them to be safety picks. I don't want to pick just micro cap crap coins. I don't want to pick coins that are just starting off, that have a high risk of you losing your money. Again, I want to pick projects here that have established footholds in their respective industries and that are doing wonders for, again, the whole entire market, crypto and Web2 alike. And then, of course, as a benefit, well, as we all are in the crypto for, pretty much is to profit, to make a good investment, to then make that life-changing financial freedom sort of wealth, okay? So, truth be told, you should definitely still buy BTC and ETH if you are someone that is looking for the safest possible investments, okay? Because you cannot beat Bitcoin, you can't beat Ethereum. I think we all kind of know that for those projects to drop in price, I think the whole market would end up crashing in that case as well. And so every project would be at a complete free fall, okay? So, as I said, they are the safest picks, but the altcoins I'm going to present to you today, I'm going to dare say, right, are up there with the two in terms of how secure they are, and saying that, okay, well, if they fall, right, the whole market might not fall, but the chance they do fail is extremely, extremely low, plus providing you more returns. And that's the key unlock here. Safest possible investment, highest possible returns. Here we go. What are they? Well, they are QNT and XDC. Now, again, I'm not just going to be someone who just tells you that, looks at some charts here and just says, go ahead and do your own research. It's up to you. No, I've done the research again, and I'm going to try to present this to you in some very key ways. What key ways? You might be saying, well, 6 key ways itself. Criteria. Okay, so why have I pretty much ranked them up here with the 2 altcoins everyone needs to buy, and also, again, what they kind of rank at. Okay, so breaking them down in terms of how safe they are. Okay, they must be as safe as possible for 2025 plus. Number 2, right, the ROI, so they must be able to, yield high returns for 2025. And to do this, what I always teach is we have to look at the narrative, where to find the money, where the money's flowing, and then whether these projects are stand out within those narratives. So a narrative is like DeFi, IoT, gaming, metaverse, so on and so forth, and what makes these projects stand out in those narratives as well. Number 3, is it evergreen? So it must be future-proof, right? So you have to, in the case that you had to, for example, own the tokens past 2025. Let's say you got sick, you were in a coma, all that sort of bad stuff, or you just got lazy and didn't sell. Something happened, okay? Well, then you would have the tokens still in 2030, and then you would still be able to make more money on them. Matter of fact, still make money on them forever. Evergreen, okay? And connections, okay? So the connections/partnerships must be show-stopping. Not just good, but show-stopping. Number 5, competition, right? Little to none above or below. So they don't have a direct competitor they're trying to chase, and they don't have any sort of competitors that are beneath them or at least gaining on them, okay? And also lastly, but definitely not least, is the team. So leadership must be quality with experience. This is the criteria I've based these projects on, and I'm going to present you with the information. Now, I want to say something very important. Now, as you'll see, I've actually got a fair bit of information on both these projects. So if you can see on the screen here, I mean, this is absolutely saturated with information. It took me quite a while, so I'd appreciate if you guys liked the video to kind of show the support in this case, but I'm going to leave this up to you to have a closer look at. Now, you can sort of mark this as your own DYOR. I'm going to skim through this, But if you're someone kind of like I used to be, and don't take any shame in this, by the way, if you don't have the time, right? If you just can't be bothered to read this. Now, I'm not using complicated language here by any stretch. I made it so anyone can read it. I'd like to briefly interrupt this program with a very special announcement. Guys, if you wanted to support all the hard work I put into making these videos for you, then there's 2 links down below I'm going to suggest you take a look at. The first is a sign up link to BitGet, which is one of the best exchanges in the space. These guys have a $300 million user protection fund and proof of reserve, so they're one of the safest exchanges and is the one I personally use for all my crypto investments. And for you non-traders out there, for you guys like me who prefer to invest and acquire the most important information and from the most reputable sources, then Token Metrics have also sponsored this channel, guys. They've offered you guys a free subscription to their basic plan, which is typically worth $20 a month or basically $200 a year. So please, if you take your investing seriously and want the most up-to-date information, go check out the links down below, guys. I've got you covered, and thank you for supporting me. Now, with that said, back to the video. But I've left this little legend down the bottom here, right? This little legend is basically the breakdown of each of these different things, right? So we have safe again, ROI, right through to team. And again, I break it down for the projects and then leave you kind of like with the overall TLDR, essentially, right? So if we go through to safe here, you can see I've broken it down, ROI, give you the ROIs here, evergreen, so on and so forth. Now, I want to remind you guys before we get into this is that yes, these projects, while I've given them high ROI status, and which is one of the reasons, or at least criteria I've given them here, and they're also very safe, I want to say it's not just like a be all and end all. So you can't have a 100% safe, absolute, not going to crash project that's going to 100x. You just can't find that anywhere, period. Look at the stock market, right? The safer you get, the less returns you're going to get, chances are, okay? It's the same thing with this case, all right? So these projects, I believe, are in that nice little middle ground, that gray area, or I really shouldn't say a gray area, a green area, that is like this combination between as safe as possible and also going to yield you the most amount of return. So you can sleep at night knowing that you're going to make some good money. Not financial advice. So let's get into it, okay? So the first criteria, safe. So Quant is affiliated with some of the world's largest financial institutions and companies, and also even government. So in my opinion, again, I'm not going to go through this in greater detail here, but Quant is a business more than a cryptocurrency. So people misconstrued because it has a crypto token that it's a cryptocurrency. Guys, yes, while it has a cryptocurrency token, it fundamentally is a business leveraging Ethereum as a settlement layer, okay? We don't look at the finer details here. That's pretty much all it is. It's got its own network, private token and everything, all right? So it is completely a business first, and so you must look at this through business lenses. And I'm going to actually go down here and say the same thing is for XDC network as well, okay? So again, like Quant, XDC is extremely safe. The reason is because XDC has a deep connection with a consortium network, which is an enterprise, a group of enterprise networks called R3/4. And it's actually leveraged quite intimately with R3/4 because R3/4 is a private network. There's no public token, no crypto token we can buy, but XDC is latched onto that as that public token, okay, for all those different, networks or enterprises within the consortium itself. So very, very, very well-established projects in their own right. They're known to these large enterprises. And for that fact and the fact that they're business first, leveraging crypto, well, XDC kind of has its parent company, XinFin, and those guys pretty much have this XDC network as like their, I guess you'll say, infrastructure. So in this case, it kind of is more so a cryptocurrency, but the general theme is it's a business first, okay? So in my opinion, they're both classified as a low risk. And again, as I mentioned to you before, R3/4, this is the ecosystem, right? So that you can see massive players in this here. We've got Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Oracle, Microsoft, AWS, we've got HSBC over here, ING. The list does go on, okay? And this is a very, very old, outdated ecosystem map. And so with R3/4, you have XDC in the middle as the public network, pretty much connecting all of these, essentially, if they wanted to use a public network. Now, over here for ROI, guys, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of us can go ahead and read this. Moral of the story, I know most of you don't want to go ahead and listen to me spiel on about this. They're both going to yield pretty high rewards for how safe they are. And these are my price predictions for 2025. Now, I want to say something, and I had a conversation with one of my subscribers a few days ago about this, and that these things will change. So when you follow me on YouTube, when you subscribe to the channel, you're going to see if things do change, in mid 2024, we might find that, Quant's at $1,000 already, or XDC's at 75 cents. And so we reevaluate these price predictions. No price predictions ever set and forget, just like no traders ever make a decision and stick with it. You got to go with what the market presents itself because, again, so many variables come into things, regulation can happen, anything, right? So we must be flexible with this, but these are my starting sort of calls, okay? $1,500 as the minimum for Quant and $1 for XinFin or XDC, okay? Right up to $3 to 5,000. Again, it could happen a lot more or a lot less than these. So subscribe if you want accurate results when the times do come. Now, is it evergreen? Well, in my opinion, Quant, there's no doubt that it is, okay? Consider that Quant will be predominantly used for CBDCs, both wholesale and retail. Wholesale used between central banks, big transactions, retail within the, the private sector through different businesses transacting, and us using, any sort of a business or leveraging essentially your, pay and go, things like that. And we can assume that 99% of demand will begin in 2030 plus, okay? Why? Well, most CBDCs will be functioning by then to some degree at least. Obviously, this takes a long time to actually integrate into an ecosystem, and network effects will be in full swing. So because Quant obviously very recently opened up their Overledger platform, the more businesses that come on, join the Overledger platform, the more bigger businesses will want to come on and leverage that, so on and so forth. And Quant has a very unique base because you can essentially connect to any network using Quant's APIs if, allowed to, essentially, right? So it's already very enticing, and that's why I think 2025, yes, it's going to do very, very well, okay? But I think it's going to really propel itself in 2030 as well. Now, XDC also is solving a very real issue that the public and private sector are both facing, and it's not what we, as retail, can actually see. However, it's larger than anything we've ever known, okay? We're talking trillions of dollars here, because XDC is only going to grow in demand as it's solving a $1.7 trillion trade finance gap, a gap in between these developing countries and also in just small businesses themselves trying to execute international or domestic trade sort of transactions here. A lot of these fall through, a lot of them because of many, many different things, way over my pay grade to discuss, but essentially they do fall through, okay, especially international, and it's all paper document based, okay? So there's a lot of things happening for XDC here, and of course, they are streamlining that process, right? They're heavily focused in TradeFi, and obviously their, enforceable smart contracts will allow the kind of disruption in this existing physical trade finance market to when all these bills pass, which there is right now in the UK, to allow electronic trade finance to happen. Well, XDC will take advantage of that, right? So in my opinion, both will outperform the market in 2025 plus and have the ability to comply with regulatory frameworks thanks to their open governance structure, okay? Now, connections, right? So Quant has some amazing partners, in my opinion, which are all visible from the website. Just like I mentioned over here with XDC, we don't want to talk about things that anyone can go ahead and see, right? We want to talk a bit deeper than that. So in my case with Quant, it's a bit tricky because they're a white label service, meaning that we don't know, who they're working with. For example, Meta could be using Quant's infrastructure right now, but Meta can actually buy out the service for it, so they don't have to tell anyone that they're using Quant. They can actually even go as far as to say, hey, this is our product itself, okay? So we don't know how deep it is, but what we do know, what we have seen, is that Quant was leveraged recently with Project Roslyn, which is a collaboration between the Bank of International Settlements, which is a bank of all banks, Bank of England, Bank of Canada, MasterCard, Berkeley's, and Amazon, to test retail CBDCs. Need I say more? Over here for XDC as well. Again, notably, XDC is intimately partnered with R3/4, however, also rumored to be connected to R3/4's parallel network called SBI R3 Japan, which was formed from the largest shareholder in R3, because again, R3 is like a company, right? A consortium network. So one of its largest shareholders, or its largest shareholder, a company called SBI, they actually started their own sort of off branch of R3/4, specifically for Japan. Again, they named it SBI R3 Japan. And so it's rumored that XDC will also be the public network for that as well, which is super important because it may unlock, as I mentioned down here, the potential trade markets in Japan, as SBI is Japan's fourth largest bank. Okay, it's huge. It's a big, big deal, right? Japan's like the world's fourth or fifth largest economy, I think, right? It's like the fourth or fifth largest trade economy in the world. So this is some big stuff here, okay? And so in my opinion, I've rated Quant 10 out of 10 and XinFin 9 out of 10 over here for connections. Now, why have I given Quant a 10? Well, because for interoperability, you literally can't beat that, right? You're working with entire economies here potentially at this stage, right? Which is the best possible outcome. And for XinFin, it's a 9. Now, while their actual partners, in my opinion, are a 10 out of 10 for their specific industry or niche, The 9 comes from when it's compared to the grand goal, okay? So I would have liked to see more partners in that area. But again, this is me being very, very pedantic here. I could have easily given it a 10 and everyone would have been happy with that, but I want to be a little bit more strict with this, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, competition-wise, so right now there aren't many competitors to Quant as far as I know, and Quant is also tackling both Web 2 and Web 3, which is massive. So there's like no competitors at all in either markets, all right? Well, Web 3 there is, right? Web 3, we've got CCIP from Chainlink. We've got a few other things like Moonbeam, of course, and a few other, DEXs that, operate like ThorChain, as an intermediary. But in my opinion, Quant is the be all and end all. It does everything so seamlessly, okay? And over here, of course, for XDC, the same sort of situation has played out. In my opinion, I couldn't find any competitors. Yes, of course, we have other consortium networks like Hyperledger Fabric, and of course, Consensus's Quorum. Although in my opinion, XDC and also R3 Quarter are so well focused on trade finance, which again is like a multi-trillion-dollar market. Well, then in my opinion, they're the leaders in this field, right? Web 2, obviously market leader. Web 3, it's kind of a bit different because there's no like trade finance in Web 3, at least from what I can probably see, and most of you know already. So there's no trade finance market, obviously, in Web 3. But in my opinion, obviously, it does have a private network where dApps can build. So there are many competitors in that general instance, but it's not really what the public ledger is going to be used for. It's going to be pretty much be leveraged more so to support, in my opinion, the sort of the consortium networks, or essentially like the trade finance market. So we'll find that dApps are built on XDC to support things like those trade finance markets, like we've seen over within PAL, so on and so forth, right? So in my opinion, both are industry leaders with little to no competition, and definitely no competition above them, which is what you want to see. And of course, over here, the team, Gilbert is an absolute powerhouse. You guys can go ahead and read all his accomplishments. Literally like the perfect man for this. He's got inside connections already with some of these companies. And we have 2 co-founders over here for XDC. In my opinion, well, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. I think it's Atul. He is probably the most, in my opinion, the most experienced individual on the co-founder list, at least. We do have Ritesh over here. He's co-founded many, many companies, but in my opinion, it doesn't have that absolute 10 out of 10 wow factor like Quant does. So I've given them an 8. And now don't get me wrong, like this is me talking about XDC in the lens of like comparing it with like the best possible team. It's not always about like your pre-existing qualifications or experience. Sometimes has to do with how well you can work together as a team and if you can bring it to life, which they can. So in my opinion, that score is a little unwarranted, but it has to be said. Okay, so with that being said, guys, I'm going to kind of compare QNT rather to Bitcoin and XDC to Ethereum. Not in the literal sense, but by the sense of if you pair these two together, they can kind of become that in your portfolio, right? So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you don't know about these projects already, you definitely need to catch up to speed, do some more research. I'll leave some links below on the videos I've done on both these projects. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching through the whole way. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, subscribe for 2 videos a day, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Bye.